Yeah, every time I see you, man, that my liver just is like, oh god, it's the bad man. Like, watch out.
Well, back then it was the chubby kid with the fro with very convincing eyes. Hey, come and drink this. You know you want to.
It was the eyes. That's what it was. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dodgeball podcast. Kind of breaking away from the recaps for this episode to interview Eric Jones. I've been looking forward to this one for quite some time now, so let's get right into it. Alrighty, well, I'm here with Eric Jones. Eric, thanks, man, for hopping on, being willing to talk dodgeball with me. I'm really excited to see where this goes. Let's just start real quick with what team you play for currently.
Yeah, I'm currently the team captain of Arsenal, based out of San Diego, but we've got guys all over the place. Fullerton, Sacramento, Phoenix, Los Angeles. I'm sure I'm probably forgetting some area, but yeah, man, it's been a good couple years with these guys.
Yeah, so how long has Arsenal been around?
Arsenal's been on the scene for about 4 years.
4 years.
Started out with Anthony Miller, myself, Corey Randalez, Jaron Jackson, Andrew Turner, Joey Wendorf, and we had our first full elite season that year. I think that was like 2013, maybe 2013, 2014.
Gotcha. And why Arsenal? Like, what's the deal with the name?
Honestly, it was just one that came up in conversation when Anthony, Corey, and I were discussing it. When we first decided to put a team together, we were reinventing the Violent Knights. It was a previous team that Anthony Miller was captaining before. So we just kind of sat down and spitballed for a little while, and when we landed on Arsenal, we all agreed that it was a pretty solid name, and we had no idea that it was a soccer team because none of us follow soccer. But
Go figure.
yeah, so we always get those comparisons like, oh, what's your team name? Arsenal? Oh, like the soccer team. Like, not really, but okay.
Yeah, I wondered, honestly, I thought about that too, but knowing you, I was like, well, maybe it's just a coincidence because there's a soccer team name for any team you can possibly think of at this point. Well, cool. And you guys have obviously, I don't want to say matured as a team, but you guys just seem to be getting tougher and tougher as the seasons progress. Can you speak to that at all, or like what's helping you guys do so well lately?
Honestly, I think it's just time. We've picked up and dropped a few players over the years, but the core has been relatively the same. And just those guys getting together, and some of us practicing on Sundays together, and that chemistry just got intensified as the years have gone by. So I'm really excited to see where we can finish out this year.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so kind of segueing into something completely different now, how long have you been playing?
I started playing in 2005, so that would be 13 years, minus a brief Army stint of 4 years. So I guess competitively it'd just be like 9.
If you take out the 4-year Army stint. So did you get any action at all when you're in the Army, like dodgeball wise? Did you get to play at all, or were you pretty much just like on a 4-year? We'll see if I get to come back to this.
No, I got to play a little bit. That's where I met the Seattle Street guys when I was up at Fort Lewis. Met Lucas, and those guys were very open and welcoming when I came up there. And honestly, there's a lot of great talent up there, so it was very easy to try to stay sharp. Did make a cameo in 2011 for NDL with Rise. That was a fun year, but that was my first real jump back into competition was in 2011.
I completely forgot that you were in Fort Lewis and that you ran out with the Seattle dudes for a little bit. For some reason, I just remember, basic, then Texas, and then South Korea for like a very long time. So I forgot about the Fort Lewis part. Crazy. So let's kind of go back to how you first started playing dodgeball. I remember you showing up with All God's People. Do you remember them enough to kind of talk about them a little bit?
Yeah, that was actually, I think, our second team. that came out in 2007 for DWC. Um, Justin Pine and I first started with the Dodgers in 2006 for the second DWC, and just got absolutely trampled. And we decided to go back and kind of retune things, and came back as AGP, All God's People. And we actually had a pretty solid showing there. It's when Joe Kalila first got on the scene and was just a monster, just catching stingers left and right.
Yeah, he's always been a catch beast. So Kalela?
Kalea, something. Yeah.
One day we'll figure out.
I
how to
should
get
know
it
that
right.
he's on my team.
It's like
sorry, Joe.
Yeah, it's like my 5th episode talking about him, and I can't get his name right yet. Anyway, so yeah, All God's People. You said you and Pyan got steamrolled. That's I would never expect to hear that ever nowadays, considering where you guys are in terms of your skill and your experience. But were you guys part of AAA with Chase and all them, or did you guys is there a connection there? I guess we should start there.
So when I met Pyan, it was when the local church in my area was doing dodgeball on, I think, Wednesday nights, and that was a college group that Chase Findell was very active in, and he actually formed AAA from guys that worked at the church with him. So
right.
They came back from NDL in 2005, and we're talking about it at the open gym, and some of the current Rise guys were there as well, and that's when we got to meet all of them, and we decided we wanted to put a team together and kind of go and compete to see where we're at. We took a lot of like pointers and whatnot from Chase starting out, but it wasn't really a parallel running of two teams. You know what I'm saying?
Right. They just kind of helped get you guys into the game, and you kind of took your own path at that point.
Right.
Gotcha. It's funny, man, and I really hope I don't offend anybody with this, but obviously Team Evil, that was our deal back in 2005. And when we saw Chase Findell and All American Apostles, and we saw like these guys with jerseys with like the cross on their chest, we're just like, it obviously didn't happen, but we just foresaw like a good epic battle of good versus evil. And that was always like a running joke that we kind of had amongst each other. So much, in fact, that we had a scrimmage after all the tournament was done. And when they went back home, and I guess when we collectively went back home, and we come back and we see All God's People, we're like, okay, what's the deal with all these Christian teams? But it was cool because people are still playing dodgeball, but at the same time, it always made me wonder, because no offense to you, but like you don't strike me as like the model Christian. So I'm just like, like comparing you to Chase, maybe a little bit different, but before I get into any more of a grave, to each his own. But yeah, I just wondered. I always wondered about that. So that makes sense. And so going back to Chase introduces you guys to dodgeball. What kept you? Like, what was it about dodgeball that just hooked you?
It was very fast paced and very different than anything else I've ever done. In like junior high school, I was a wrestler and played football. So dodgeball was just completely not even on my radar. Like, got the first little taste of that open gym, and I was that guy who would get a ball and just be like so antsy and just looking like a nerd, just throwing from halfway back on the court and getting caught, but still wanted to keep coming back and trying to get better and hopefully beat some of these guys who've been doing it for a little while. So nice.
So did you ever play dodgeball as a kid or in like gym class ever?
No, they actually never let us in school. What's weird is the San Diego school system has a no dodgeball policy, which is very, very weird. I think it's a great sport that should be brought in to kids at a very young age, get them kind of in that teamwork kind of atmosphere. Plus, it's fun as hell. So
yeah, so I remember like 2005, 2006, there was like this big public outcry of like dodgeball should be banned in schools. It promotes bullying, and it started to tie into like the wussification of America. Like dodgeball is like the last bastion, the last thing that was going to fall before we all became complete wimps. But it's ironic that of all places, dodgeball in San Diego is banned when you have good teams like Rise coming out of there and you guys and so on and so forth. It's pretty weird how that worked out.
Yeah, it's a very strange place in my opinion, but we make do.
I'll say. So you guys played in the church for a little bit. Like what is San Diego dodgeball like now versus what it was like back then? Like, were you part of the In Cahoots tournaments at all? Did you participate in those?
No, I was too young for In Cahoots back then, but my understanding is that place was pretty insane. But now, I mean, we have our San Diego 8.5 on Sundays. 4.5 hours of just dodgeball. Just getting in there, mixing up teams, and just getting better. Just a bunch of guys who are committed to getting better at the sport. Before we had like one league in San Diego, and it was the Vavi League, which was fun in a social setting, but not really what you're looking for as a competitive player. But over the last couple of years, there's been like Club Waka's come out and they started a foam league on Tuesdays here, and Eagle Rock Yacht Club is growing in San Diego now as well, coming down from LA. And in my opinion, I've been a part of that for 4 or 5 seasons now, and the competition is definitely getting better in that league. So I see a lot of good things in the future for San Diego. Nice.
So there's definitely more to it than your Sunday practices then, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
That's cool. That's always been, I don't want to say a mystery of mine, because the discipline definitely makes sense for you guys. But, I got to participate in a quote-unquote practice with you guys back in like 2013, 14. And, it was fun, but I just like wondered, how do they keep getting better and better playing against each other? But then if you guys continue to up the ante and get crazy with your drills and your discipline, then that kind of answers itself. But I wondered if there was more of dodgeball out there for you guys. So real quick, what was Vavi exactly?
Vavi is
what is Vavi?
Is a adult sports organization. They actually were recently purchased by Club Waka. But they run a no sting league on Wednesdays as well, but they play with 2 balls and it's like 11 people per side, and very, very social game.
Yeah, I remember Jackie was telling me about Vavi. I mean, this is back in the day. She was explaining kind of the scene with you guys, and Kelly was telling her about it, or maybe you were telling her about it. I was like, that's wild. Like 80 people or whatever and like 2 balls. I wonder how they keep track of that. We'll definitely never try that in Tucson. But it was interesting, and it sounded like a lot of fun. I mean, it sounded like if you guys can pull those numbers, I wonder if we could do that ourselves. Cool. So when did you debut in the NDL? It was 2006, right?
Yeah, 2006.
And was that with All God's People as well, or that was the team before?
That time I think we were the Dodgers.
That's right.
Yeah, it was bad. I think we played in the I think it was only the 1 division at the time, but we ended up losing our first game pretty badly, and then got smashed by like an all women's Portland team, and
the Dodgeball.
We definitely couldn't let that just sit, so we had to come back.
I mean, they were pretty good. I mean, long before the women's teams that we have now, they were the Dodgebells, and they were a pretty good looking team. I just remember thinking, an all women's team, that's wild. That I wonder if that will ever last in dodgeball, and look what we've got now. So,
well, like their entire team was like previous softball players, and they all had the fast pitch softball stinger throw, and I mean, it came in fast. Excuse me, that stuff came in fast,
All good. Yeah, that and like I think just like in the Northwest in general, they had a really solid league and stuff like that. So they clearly knew what they were getting into. Like I always remember Seattle and Portland they'd be able to produce some pretty solid teams like Seattle Reign, and there's some Portland teams. I don't remember the names, but I just remember like that's a pretty solid area. And that's also when Kevin Pack and OSU started to show up too. So there's always been pretty tough. Okay, well, so you guys lost your first round, decided, hey, we're going to come back and do better. And that's when All God's People formed. And I remember you guys like playing or showing up to Phoenix a few times for the tour stops, and that's when I really started to like recognize you and remember you. And it's funny because I'll never forget. And I think about this every time I see you in the parking lot. It's like, is he going to hand me a drink or a Coors Light or say, hey, shotgun this with me real quick? And I just remember like there was something about like the first time that you did it. I was like, I don't have a choice. Like this guy's not going to take no for an answer. So I might as well slam one real quick. And this is back when I could actually handle playing and drinking just a little bit before a game. But yeah, every time I see you, man, that my liver just it's like, oh God, it's the bad man. Like watch out.
Well, back then it was the chubby kid with the fro with very convincing eyes. Hey, come and drink this. You know you want to.
It was the eyes. That's what it was. Yeah, man. I mean, shoot, we could probably go all kinds of different ways with our drinking history. I mean, you introduced me to beer pong. I remember you had to explain it to me like 3 or 4 times. Like, I don't understand this game. Like, why would you want to win? It doesn't make sense. But I learned the hard way. Like, it's better to win. Otherwise, you're just gonna have a rough night. But it was a blast. Yeah. So before I get too crazy into like again the drinking escapades, I mean, you did spend some time in Tucson. I think even before that, you'd come to some of the tournaments that I had run. I distinctly remember the Care Bears. Do you remember that team?
Oh yeah, Care Bears. That was a fun team. I had just moved out to Tucson, and you guys are running that tournament over at that hockey rink. And was it Pyan Kelly Elizondo came out for it, and it was me and I believe Andy Perez.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Andrew.
Way back when.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun, man. I had a great time at that tournament. There were some good teams there too. Remember the Shockers?
Yeah,
like that black and yellow team.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I remember them. Wow. Yeah, you had your stupid typical cookie cutter. Let's round up some frat dudes and have a clever name called the Shockers team that would show up for Blade World. Then you had these guys who were. I mean, they were solid. Like they had like their jerseys and shorts matched, and they even went to like the NDL DWC for 2008, I think. So they were a pretty solid team, and they were pretty cool guys. It was great seeing them when they would come out.
Yeah, they were kind of like the Rainbows. Everybody on that team has some hands,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Playing those guys it was actually a really good game to watch that go down. Sucks the way that it ended, but it happens.
Yeah, they're such a wild card. Like they just came. They never came to our open gyms. They didn't play in any of the. I think we had like 1 or 2 leagues back then, and they were just like, I would just email their captain, hey, we have a tournament coming up in May, or we have a tournament coming up in June or whatever, and they would show up, and they would make some of the Grand Canyon State games as well. But that's interesting because I thought then that was like the strongest Tucson was going to be in terms of competition. And man, what did I know? I mean, this is before Phoenix got involved more than because you guys kept coming into the Grand Canyon State games and just stealing our medals, and it just drove us all crazy. And I think I remember you guys were like was it Joe Biden? And you guys would come up with such weird team names too. Yeah,
I think that was all Joe.
It's all Joe.
Joe is a wizard with these team names.
Yeah, I just remember some of those were crazy. But I do remember the janitors. That one's kind of stuck a little bit. Was that like a co-ed team for you, or do you remember that team at all?
So the janitors was a co-ed team with what was it? Tim, Jim, Tommy, and Colin.
Okay.
Back then, and I think Kelly Salamoni was there with Jen Pacina. I don't remember her, but yeah, that was the janitors team that came out. I think we might have used that for one of the Grand Canyon State games. But
that wasn't like your staple team?
No, not at all.
Gotcha.
Those guys were good, man. They're real good.
So I wanted to ask all God's people, what was your run? It was like 2006 to about 2008 was when I think I last saw them.
So we actually only used that team name for that 1 year, and then I think going into 2008 we were triple dip.
Okay.
And we had that little last minute drama like the night before the tournament, and we had to pick up people the day before. So it ended up being like me, Pyan, Eddie Velez, John Wood, Cale Brown, and Woodstock.
Woodstock. I have not heard that name in a very long time. Wow. That's crazy. Man, yeah, it's just so funny because I'm like trying to like reconstruct the past. And these are all things like I know or used to know and have like photos of and records and all this other stuff. It's just so crazy to hear it all come up again through somebody else's perspective. What,
Yeah, it's hard to believe that it was 10 years ago.
yeah, that, I mean, yeah, it's, yeah, just remind me of how old I am again. Thanks. Just how fast, just time flies. And again, just thinking that was the pinnacle of dodgeball. Like it wasn't going to get any better than that. And then here we are, like, 2018 Elite Dodgeball, round one's done. We're already looking to round two. We already know it's going to be better. It's going to be crazier. It's just like, man, I guess their standards were really low back then. We were just really eager to, or really easy to impress. But that's just fun looking back sometimes. The only other thing I want to ask about All God's People is, do you remember that poor dude that broke his arm throwing a stinger?
Oh yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
believes me that this happened. So
I forget what his name. Justin. Crap, I can't remember his last name. But yeah, it was in Arizona at the Grand Canyon State Games, I think.
Yep.
And he just stepped up and cocked back the throw and then had that spiral fracture. That was probably the loudest pop I've ever heard on the court because I was standing next to him, and I just looked over and just saw his arm just kind of go limp and just kind of flail around there for a minute, and I was like, dude, that is freaking disgusting.
Dude, what is your problem? That is gross. Not, are you okay? Just do that is gross. Get that out of my eyesight, please. Yeah, that guy, I mean, he really didn't have much meat on him. He was pretty thin, but my God, could he throw those things insanely fast and insanely hard? And you guys, I don't want to say like legit terrified us. Evil. This is evil talking. Me, Mason, and all them. But we're like, we gotta do something about that guy. And I mean, we didn't mean it like that. Like something clearly happened and took him out of the running. But I'll never forget that. Like I'll never forget how fast he threw, and I'll just never forget like him throwing. We're all flinching, and the next thing I know, he's like holding his arm, and I think I don't know if he went to the ground. I just remember like that was it. Like he broke his arm throwing. It's like, how does that even happen? That's insane. I just like, yeah, to this day, I'll still tell people about it. I was like, yeah, I know a time when a dude broke his arm throwing a dodgeball. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. The unfortunate part about that overall, though, is that ended his dodgeball career, and he never played after that. The guy had a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And that was just so horrific for him. He's just like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame because like it was with the stinger, and that's still something that had a lot of controversy and whether or not those things should be allowed. And obviously they've been phased out now. So it makes you wonder, like, I wonder if he could have adapted to 8.5, how crazy he would have been, especially if he 10 years after the fact. Kid would have been a monster. Yeah. But I don't blame him at all. I mean, if I suffered an injury like that, I think I'd be done. Like there's no I don't know how you overcome that. That's way different than like a torn labrum, I think. And not to cheapen that injury by any means. It's just your arm broke. Like, I don't know how you come back from that. That's just insane. Okay, well, so I kind of have a better idea. I for some reason, again, I just think All God's People forever, and then Care Bears, and then I think Marauders once for like a fun tournament, and then boom, 2008, you're moving to Tucson, and then somehow 3 months later we're roommates, which is insane to think about, because like that's. Again, that's where like my drinking escapades kind of ramped up a little bit, and I don't blame you for that. I'm not saying it's all your fault.
You definitely should.
But I should, yeah. I just remember like, and not to again talk too much about our escapades together, but yeah, you're just like one of the chillest dudes, and I kept thinking, how did Dodgeball make this happen? Like, how do I go from like barely knowing this dude that I would see once or twice in San Diego or at a tournament, I should say, to being my roommate. Now we're like, drinking beers on our porch, yelling at people to come drink with us because that was like your thing, and you're just like so outgoing and so like extroverted. I just couldn't believe it, and the fact that people would actually come up and hang out with us just blew my mind. But it definitely helped me get out of my shell too. I would like to say that when you moved out, Me and my buddy Carlos, we kept that tradition, and that's how we met a lot of our friends today that we still talk to, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it's just it always strikes me, man. Like dodgeball brings people together in the weirdest of ways, and you may be acquaintances or rivals at one tournament, but fast forward a couple of years, shoot, you may be roommates. It's pretty incredible, or you may be talking to them 10 years later, in a podcast. So.
Yeah, it's crazy because I know like some of my longest friendships, I'm 30 years old and my longest friendships have been in the dodgeball community, so um, it's been I wouldn't say a catalyst to kind of spark and just get out and meet new people, which is another reason why I like to travel so much and play in other leagues in other states, other cities, just trying to continue to bridge that gap.
Yeah, that's. I realized that when I was writing the article for the Seattle Classic recap. I was just thinking about my escapades in Oregon and going to the Seattle Classic and just realizing, man, it's not just about a chance to play against different people. It's just meeting them and expanding that network, making new friends, and also just having just different experiences all around. Something else I never thought I would do. Like I never thought I'd leave Tucson. I always thought like I'm just gonna be a little homebody and never travel. But that seems to be a recurring theme, especially with you. Like it seems like you're just everywhere. Like you go to any tournament that you're available to. Again, pretty crazy. Say that 10 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, you're nuts. I don't see that happening. But I definitely want to go back into that with you. But before we do that, I kind of wanted to just talk real quick. So we're kind of like 2008 now. You had this crazy idea to join the Army. You're gone for 4 years, and you said you really didn't have very much dodgeball action at that point.
Right. I mean, pretty much just closed off from everybody for the first, I want to say like year and a half of my career. Don't really get to do a whole lot, see very many people, basic and then, advanced individual training. It just takes up all of your time. What also didn't help was the fact that my first duty station out of it was South Korea. So
it definitely didn't help.
that's like 2.5 years where I'm just away from everybody, when I got to Korea, I was able to take a little bit of leave, for that, maybe 10, 15 days, came down, played a couple practices with the San Diego group, and then, went right back overseas. So getting dodgeball in at that time was just wasn't even a possibility. Wasn't until I got to Lewis where I was able to go up and start playing with the Seattle guys. I think that was probably towards the end of 2010, beginning 2011.
I think that sounds,
yeah, man.
Sounds about right.
It's crazy. Definitely changed my life.
Yeah, for sure. Now, when you joined the Army, and you're like, were you even thinking that you'd come back to dodgeball?
Honestly, I didn't even know what to expect after that. I had no idea what the future was going to hold after I signed that contract and got ready to ship out. All I can think of is like, man, I just got to get through the next few weeks, and then I'll be able to, go somewhere different and try to get acclimated to this lifestyle. But once I got towards the second half of that contract, I was like, man, I just can't wait to get back and start playing dodgeball again. And, the Seattle guys have really, really sparked that passion up again for it. So I got to thank the Seattle Street team for getting me back.
Nice. Yeah, that. So my obviously being in the reserves and guard is a little bit different, but that's. I don't think I really contributed the credit to the Oregon guys, but like they really got me back into dodgeball just from my brief stint when I was overseas. But it was nothing like you, where you're actually active duty for 2 full years. So it's kind of cool that they kind of acted like a what do you call it, rehabilitation for dodgeball. It's crazy. I mean, could you imagine not coming back and all the things that you would have missed out on if you just hung up your shoes, your knee pads for the rest of your career? It's insane to think about. I'm surprised. I was surprised that you came back the way you did. Now it feels like you've never missed a beat. Like you've just been playing this whole time, and there was no 4-year gap in your career, at least from my perspective. So It was,
Oh, I definitely appreciate that, man. But I will tell you, from when I went out the first time and then when I came back, the game has changed so much. Like, I think that's what made it easier to get back into it was that it wasn't like, oh, I got to get my skills back together. It was, oh no, I'm just learning a new style of game altogether. So, um, just kind of took it as something brand new to just try to get good at. So,
right.
I remember back before I left, the common strategy was to throw that one ball, and then everyone hides behind the corners with balls. And now you got pressers and people who are just holding pressure on the line. You know, it's a completely different game than it was in '08.
Oh yeah, no, it's funny because even like say 5 years from now, I'm sure we'll say, "Oh man, a completely different game too." Maybe not as drastically because I love to make this comparison when I'm talking to some of the older guys like Serge and even Glenn. Like, dude, check us out in 2008. Look at some of the NDL footage and just like, what is going on? What are they? That's not dodgeball. I don't know what that is. It's just a bunch of kids throwing balls at each other and just flailing around like a bunch of crazies. Versus now, where I mean, like you said, it's you kind of allude to the strategy, the complexity just keeps getting amped up, and people just keep growing. So it's cool that when you came back, it wasn't stagnant. It wasn't like you came back to 2008 dodgeball, because that's way easier to leave and say goodbye to than now, or even when you were released from the military or discharged, I guess is probably the better term. What I'm going to assume that's what got you involved in Elite then. I mean, you were obviously a competitive person. It just seemed like Elite was the next step to go for you.
To be honest, I didn't even know about Elite when I got back. We were too busy trying to build this new team just to just play in tournaments. I think the thing we're looking at with Anthony, and Corey, and myself was just the next Grand Canyon State Games that were coming up. And Anthony told me one weekend, I'm actually going to a dodgeball tournament. And I'm like, well, what tournament are you talking about? He said he was playing on Riot in Elite. And I was kind of interested to see what that was all about. And I was kind of sitting around at the house, and I got a message the night before from Anthony Miller saying Joe Fernandez was looking for some fill-ins for Los Banditos. So
Oh,
I
wow.
went ahead and made the trek up with Corey, and we hopped on Banditos for our first Elite tournament. And I mean, we kind of got trampled because that whole team, pretty much with the exception of like Joe, were all like fill-in guys who've never really played Elite before. But after we got smashed there, it was like, this is something that could be great. We needed to get our team together and come back to this. So
Nice.
yeah, man, it was definitely a eye-opening experience. I've never seen so much talent in just one gym at one time. Like,
Just all
the
there
things that
for.
these guys are doing are really good.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if that might have been either 2013 or 2014 then, because I remember Los Banditos were a team for a little bit before before Tony left for Arsenal, I think.
Yeah, I think that was back in like 2014, if I'm not
2014.
mistaken.
Yeah, it's that's funny. It almost sounds like kind of like a smaller repeat of what happened with the Dodgers. Like, you show up to NDL, you kind of get rattled, and you come back like, how do I fix this? Same thing with Elite. It's like you show up to Elite, not really sure what to expect. You have an idea, get rocked a little bit, and they're like, okay, let's come back and let's come back stronger. So that's pretty cool how that turned out. Cool. So I mean, you stuck around the Elite scene. Obviously, you've gotten a lot better. You're definitely one of the players to look out for. Let's talk about the international scene, especially kind of going into to travel. What was it like playing on Team USA in 2016?
That whole experience was just crazy, man. Never been to Australia before. And to be honest, a lot of these guys I've never played with before, or I've only met at the tryout. So showing up at the house with everybody, like the whole atmosphere was just a fun place, man. Everybody there was just ready to get to work, and I think I got right off the plane, and from the plane dropped my bags off, changed, and we went to our practice.
Nice.
Man, there's some really good ballers out there that I didn't even think would be possible, man. That year Canada was just on fire. Um, they had like a slow showing in one of the games against Australia early on in round robin, but the rest of the tournament, those guys were just breezing through people, man. It's like they couldn't miss.
That's so I need to attend one of these tournaments because I'm always just completely blown away when I go to like a new area or region where there's a lot of people playing and they're just phenomenal players. But like I can't mentally imagine what it's like to see countries with these phenomenal players. You know what I mean? Like I can't. I want to experience that in some way. Um, I guess other than Canada, what other country really kind of just stood out for you that you guys were just like, wow, these guys are amazing?
I heard a lot of stories about Malaysia, and it wasn't until I actually watched them play in person and played against them that I realized exactly how good those guys were. I have never seen people so fast. Um, it was just ridiculous.
Who I don't know if I was talking to somebody about this or if I read it, but somebody said that Malaysia completely changed the way foam is played. Does that kind of echo what your thoughts are with them? Like, or are they just that good, or that like, is there a strategy that they have, or what is it about them that makes them so fierce from your perspective that you can recall?
And these guys, they're disciplined, man. They're fast. They throw together. They throw hard, and they're very unpredictable. I honestly, I can't even begin to describe the feelings I had the first time I saw them play. Um, I was just glad we were able to keep up with them at the time, man. They were running on all cylinders.
Hmm. And can you remind me, how did you guys fare in 2016?
We finished fourth.
Fourth.
We finished fourth behind Australia.
Gotcha. And who took first and second?
First was Canada, and second was Malaysia.
Gotcha. So, was it difficult transitioning from rubber to foam to play on Team USA, or had you already had experience, or how did that play out? Let's backtrack a little bit.
Very difficult. Very difficult. I'm an 8.5 guy. That's been the game since I started playing, so trying to actually get in and start playing foam was a very difficult transition. You watch the tapes for 2016, and I couldn't throw those balls worth it. So my job was sit back and catch,
Right.
But since then, I feel like I've gotten better with them. I think 2016 was like my third foam tournament that I played in. So
Wow.
if you don't count the tryout leading up, but beforehand I hated foam, and now it's probably one of my top two styles. I think the future is actually going to end up phasing out 8.5, and as much as it sucks to say, man, like it's going to be weird. It's going to be there's no sting or foam taking it over.
Yeah, I was just like, don't say it, don't don't talk like that way, Eric Jones.
I mean, if you look at it, you have the numbers to prove it. You got Sin City where you get, I don't know, like 12 teams, 15 teams for 8.5, and you're up in like 38 for no sting. It brings in a lot more people who want to come in and be competitive. So it's, as much as people don't want to say it and want to admit it, it's going to be phased out. Hopefully, it's not in our careers, because I couldn't imagine a world without 8.5. But I think it's definitely going to happen.
I can, and it's very sad for me. I don't want to think about it. And you have a great point. I mean, Sin City, you're right. Dang the evidence. But I mean, no sting, like 50, 60 teams, some ridiculous amount. And then you got like you said, maybe 20 diehard rubber fans. But I mean, in another lifetime, another universe, I'm sure I started with foam and I probably love it. And I think 8.5 is the devil. But in this universe, no, 8.5 is the way to go. And aside from 8.5, what are your next favorite styles or favorite types of balls?
After 8.5, because again, 8.5 is
the way.
The truth right there. But after 8.5, it'll be foam and then no sting.
See, I would have thought sting or no sting and then foam. That's me anyway. What is it about foam that you like so much that kind of like how did you end up liking foam? We'll start there.
It's difficult for me. It's a style that I wasn't good at, and I just want to get better, you know. So I appreciate the challenge that the foam style brings, and you know, I feel like I'm still growing with it. So a lot of room for improvement there.
Yeah, that's respectable. That's a pretty good way to look at it. Just appreciate it for the challenge, and it definitely challenges me a lot. And I find myself dodging way more than I would with an 8.5 ball now. Is that kind of the same with you, or what? Does anything change when you play with foam?
Um, when I play a foam, I can't just put my hands out there and try to grab. I mean, those things are coming in with all sorts of weird flight patterns. You have to be a lot more selective in what you're going for, in my opinion. Some people probably tell you different, but I mean, 8.5. You know, you get a hand on it, there's a good chance you're catching it. You know,
You can reel it in, or stop the momentum and like have it pop up a little bit or juggle.
right?
Yeah, it's I was playing yesterday in the foam league, and I'm just like, my hands are way more kept inside my body than normal, just because you're right. Like you have to select the right one to go for. You can't just kind of reach and hope for the best and let instinct take over, because it's a completely different type of feel. I think a lot of people like will let the ball impact their chest before they wrap their arms around it. Can't do that so much with foam. You kind of have to like fold into it, if that. But then I see people like Isidro just snag things out of nowhere, just out of the air, just pluck them like it's just so easy. I'm like, man, I want to learn how to do that at some point. So,
Oh yeah, man, that kid is a foam beast, dude. I watched him play a little bit at a couple of these tournaments, man, and whew, I have never seen someone catch foam the way he does.
yeah, it's insane. Like that guy's a monster. Really impressive to watch. Just anywhere, like it doesn't. You can even throw a ball like 5 feet away from him, and somehow he'll get it. It's just.
Oh yeah, man, he's already got it in his head. He's taking that ball home with him.
Yep. Taking it home. Gonna just put up on his little shelf, and that'll be it's a done deal. So let's talk about growth, right? Obviously you've been playing for quite some time. You had a bit of a 4-year hiatus-ish. You come back and you're getting better and better. In fact, I think you're ranked. Do you remember what you were ranked by chance? Probably should check before.
Was it 18th in the West, I believe?
Yeah. So I mean, you had a pretty good ranking, and people know who you are. They know, I should watch out for this guy. I probably shouldn't throw at him. How do you do that? How do you continue to improve and not stagnate?
Most of it is that Sunday 8.5, in San Diego. It's 4.5 hours of playing with guys like Tim Fullerton and Justin Pine, and we get a lot of guys that come down from LA who are incredibly talented, it's always something that we're working on when we're down there, and it's not just one style. We switch it up, different ball styles. Really, it's just you're mixing in and playing with people you don't normally play with. Well, I say that, but at this practice, so you're kind of getting to know how other people see the game as well, and it helps you kind of evolve your game a little bit.
So you can kind of like pick and pull from what they're doing.
Absolutely. I started playing corner when I made Arsenal, and I had to learn a lot and study Tim, quite a bit for what I'm doing, and I had to ask him sometimes, like, let me know what you're seeing and what I need to improve on, and Tim has been very, very helpful when I first started out with that transition. So we have a great group down here, and everyone is just committed to getting better. So as long as we got that common goal, I think we're going to continue to thrive.
That's a really good point that you bring up, and that was something that maybe not a lot of people know about Tim, is that he's always down to, like, I don't say help you out, but he's always down to talk about dodgeball and just be real with you. I was surprised I was able to get what I did out of him during the interview with him, but like he's a very approachable guy, and the fact that he's willing to kind of break down what he sees, I mean, that could be such valuable information for anybody that's there and able to watch it and internalize that. And that's a huge, like, I guess, kudos to him, because you think, and I'm guilty of this too, like Rise is just a bunch of D-bags, they're they're in a little corner and they're just too good to mingle with the common folk. But that's really not the case. And I know I get a lot of I don't get a lot, but I do get some what's the word I'm thinking of here? I can't think of it. But I do get some whatever. I'll insert that later. About how many Rise people that I'm talking to on this podcast, but there's a reason for it. It's because they're down to chat dodgeball, and they're very open and outgoing people. So if anybody's listening that has a chance to go to these practices, if it's open, I guess I should probably qualify that first. I would definitely recommend doing that, because it seems like whoever comes out of there, like Anthony Miller, yourself, just people that come out of their practices end up taking something with them that's really valuable and makes them a better player. So you're making me want to go to San Diego now, even more so.
Yeah, you're always welcome, brother. Always welcome.
I think I'll be going before month's end. We'll see. But cool. So let's kind of transition into just the fact that you've been playing for as long as you have. What is your favorite dodgeball memory to date?
So that would have to be the 4v4 with Happy Holidays. Nick Factorian, Brianna London, Alex Alvarez, and myself went in there with some ugly Christmas sweaters and ended up taking it home. A lot of good teams there, and a long day of dodgeball, man. Turned it on in the bracket, so it was a really good time.
Nice. So just nothing in particular about that. Just overall, the event was a good time. And
well, I mean, there's the catch, but honestly, I didn't even know I pulled that down until I looked at it in my hands. But that moment was just crazy. I could have swore Andrew was about to blow up my face.
Is that the catch that went viral?
Yeah.
Is that what Sergio De Leon's talking about?
Sergio brought that up earlier.
Why am I calling him Sergio Leone? I'm sorry, dude. I keep calling him De Leon. I don't know why I did that. Bad, Steve. Okay, so I was wondering what that was. Dang. So you had per his words, how did it feel having his clip of catch him at point blank go viral? So do you remember that at all? Like, can you kind of replay that a little bit?
Yeah, so I remember I had a ball in my hand, and so did Ketchum, and we both threw at each other, and our balls collided. And I looked around and realized I had nothing around me while Ketchum was leaning down, picking up the next ball, and just charging me. So my whole thing was just get up and protect your face, and it just kind of stuck. And I just didn't know I had it until I looked down. Apparently, it was pretty intense at the moment, but that put us up. Or tied us up 1-1 in the final. So
nice.
Definitely needed to be done.
I mean, it's catch 'em, whether it's foam, rubber, no sting, any kind of balls, no small feat. But to do that with that kind of pressure on you, and he's, you're the only person on his mind. I'm sure that's a great feeling. If you catch it, I'm sure it's pretty scary if not. But that's awesome. I was wondering what Nicholas Factoria meant about Happy Holidays. It's like, must be like an inside joke, but I get it now.
But Ketchum paid me back in Sin City with that face shot.
He'll do that.
And no sting. So, yeah, it kind of balanced itself out.
Yeah, if you catch him, you can guaranteed you're going to get a face shot coming your way. So, I mean, not to think that I know how he plays, but I know that if I catch one, if I can just stay low and protect the face, I might be okay for a couple rounds, because that's just that's how he pays you back. So that's I'm not surprised to hear that, but yeah, it's what it is.
Dude, I could not see out of my right eye for the rest of the day. That thing hit me so square.
And that was a no sting ball?
Yeah, no sting ball right into the eyeball.
Oof, yeah, that's not good. Well, good thing you didn't have like a detached retina or anything like that.
Thank goodness.
It's so weird, man. Like, not to get too deep into this, but like I wasn't watching. I was on my phone playing Clash of Clans during a no-sting game for Sin City, and a ball just like bounced ever so lightly onto my eyeball, and I lost my vision for like 30 seconds. I was almost freaking out. Like, it just barely like kissed my eyeball. It wasn't bad at all compared to like a throw from Ketchum. So the fact that you're fine and you walked away from that's pretty phenomenal. You're lucky.
Oh man.
Well, it's kind of getting to I guess that's a good way to get into like the Facebook questions that I was able to source kind of last minute. Katie Sanchez asks, what is your favorite brand of iced tea?
It's Gold Peak all the way. Some of the best tea out there. Um, if they're listening, we're looking for sponsors.
There you go. Is there something behind that iced tea comment, or is that just
Oh, that's my. It's usually my fun tournament drink is the whiskey iced tea.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. And Billy Schmidt's asking, what is your favorite mixer with the iced tea? So I imagine some whiskeys. What does it? That's your fun drink?
Yeah. It just depends on what you got at the store. If you only got unsweetened tea, you get a Tennessee honey. If you got some sweet tea, then you grab the regular Jack Daniels. But
nice. Sounds like you got
either way, it still gets you drunk and you still have a good time. So
gotcha. And then we got Emilio Veliz asks, where he just mentions the game that he single-handedly beat the other team in the finals. I feel like you do that more than once, but do you might by any chance know what he's talking about?
I think he's going back to the 4v4.
Gotcha. Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Gotcha. And he does ask, who are your favorite fellow dodgeballers from the other 3 elite regions, North, East, and South?
Oh man! All right. Well,
kind of putting you on the spot there, and it doesn't have to be 3. Just whoever comes to mind. Let's just start with North.
Favorite guys in the North, man, would have to definitely be Cody Foley, and that guy's freaking hilarious. And Hector, man, Gordo from Task Force. That's my dude up there.
Let's do East now.
Is it cheating if I say Billy? I mean, he's a West Coast guy, but Billy Schmidt is going up there just wrecking stuff on the East. Anarchy had a good showing.
So I heard.
They're around 1. Steven Decker, Amanda Ashley are 2 of my favorite people out there on the East as well.
Nice. Yeah, Steven Decker's a cool guy. How about South?
South, Anthony Miller. It's my boy. Arsenal, Violent Knights. He's doing big things down there too. Cody Stidham, another guy I was on 16 with, and really got to become better friends with him. Man, he's probably one of the coolest dudes I've met over this span. So
nice. Yeah, I've only talked to Cody briefly because I was trying to source people for the South recap, and he was really quick to help me out. So he seems like a cool guy. And then obviously Amanda Ashley, definitely want to go back. She's awesome as well. So I just want to make sure.
Yeah, she's still healing up from that ACL. So yep. Heal up, girl. Hope to see you out there soon.
Yep, speedy recovery. And then Markel Stokes asked, who was the hardest thrower you've caught?
I mean, it'd be stupid to not say Ketchum. I mean, this guy throws missiles. Excuse me.
Yeah, he is. I mean, that's that's almost like an easy one. Like, yeah, it's gonna be Ketchum. I guess maybe. Okay, here we go. Pre-Ketchum, and even pre-Elite. Who was, if you can recall, like your biggest threat going back in the day?
I would say probably Doom Train, man. That guy had some whip on those things.
I was wondering if you're going to say Mason.
Man, the funny thing about Mason was his behind the back throw was just as hard as his regular throw.
Yeah, you say funny thing. I beg to differ because it doesn't, and like you couldn't tell when it was coming. Like you can sense just because you've known him for so long. Maybe he had like a little twinkle in his eye, or you're just like, you know what? I think I'm due for behind the back. It's coming. I'm gonna stay really low. But yeah, I mean, he just he wouldn't change anything. You just boom. It's now it's coming up from the ground into your face, or now it's coming from over the shoulder into your face. Or what I was really not a fan of was when he would do his like freaking like 360 cyclone throw, and he would just like let his arm completely go limp, and he would just fling that thing. That was, my God, I caught one and I thought I just had like internal bleeding from my chest for like the longest time, and people were like, whoa, and I was like, don't cry, like this hurt a lot. Like it's not worth it. But yeah, remember the good old days when Mason Shank was the scary guy?
Yeah, man, I wish he was still doing his thing with Elite right now. But that guy was insane. He's one of the people you always had to keep your eye on. Like you took your eye off him, chances are you're getting hit in the face.
Yep. Not to mention he's always been a cool guy. I don't know if if we socialized that much back when you were in Tucson, but I got to know him a lot more. I mean, I guess I always knew him, but we really started hanging out more and more towards like 2011, 12 timeframe. He's just, I mean, you still talk to him. He's still a good dude. So maybe one day we can get him back into dodgeball and kind of show him like, hey, dude, you're no longer the biggest dude in town. Or you have to kind of reclaim your throne there.
Just put him and Andrew in a showdown.
Yeah, he needs an on-ramp, I feel. But I think after getting blown up by Ketchum, it'd be like, okay, Doom Train has to step it up now. That would be interesting to watch, though. I'd pay money to see that.
So did Mason pass off his Doom Train powers to Baby Doom Train and Justin Acton, or what?
Baby Doom Train. I wonder if you'd fly with that. I don't know. And that's another guy that can just sling balls like no other. I think the Doom Train mantle is still up for grabs, to be honest with you. Justin's a different type of scary, but not Doom Train scary. I mean, there's a reason why I gave him that nickname. Is like, this guy's charging after you. Like, it's good luck.
It will not end well for you.
Yeah, I mean, you could try, and it might end well, but there's a good chance no. And I've seen people run out of bounds to avoid them. So, man, those are the good old days. Those are fun times. So let's go to the other question here, and that was Joe Martinez from Outsiders, who I just got to meet not too long ago, asks, what are you expecting to see in the South this weekend? So I guess tomorrow by the time this airs.
Oh, man. The South has a lot of good foam players there, too. I'm expected to get down there and really have our work cut out for us over there on Lone Star. I'm very, very thankful that Cody asked me to come down and play with them and for this tournament. So I'm just going to try to go out there and do my best. They've got some definite foam monsters down there, man. Like Vaughn Kelly is a freaking beast. Anthony Miller, Jalen Gardner. You know, every one of those guys, Jonathan Harper, can throw these things with some serious intention. So got to be on high alert this weekend.
And what exactly is taking place this weekend?
Dodge War 4, I believe, is the name of the tournament in Dallas.
Dodge War 4. Huh.
I was going to pull up the event. My phone just died. But yeah, it's a co-ed. 7-on-7 tournament. 6 guys, 1 girl.
Nice.
Should be a good time, man.
Okay, so this is a Dallas dodgeball thing, it looks like. I'm pulling up on the interwebs. Cool. Dang, dude. So, I mean, you came back from Seattle, last weekend, and now you're off to Dallas?
Yeah, man. It never sleeps, dude. You can't take days off.
Well, that definitely adds to that question, or the answer rather, of, how do you stay so sharp and competitive? This is why. I mean, shoot. One weekend you're in Seattle, next weekend you're in Dallas, and then we got like Portland coming up in a couple weeks, so that won't be too far off. Are you going anywhere else in the next couple of weeks before round 2?
Yeah, April 21st, Throwdown, Minneapolis, playing with Trash Pandas, Cody Foley's team. I'm looking forward to that one as well, man. Should be very interesting. Like I said, both of these places, Dallas and Minneapolis, man, their foam game is strong. So
nice.
Gotta come ready to play.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean that's a great way to trial by fire. It's a good way to get better.
Absolutely.
Do you have, maybe this is a bit of an unfair question, do you have like a favorite region or city that you just love going to play?
I would have to say the North, man. Going up to the North is always fun. The people up there are very nice. The competition is good, but they get to play pinch. We don't get to do that. So going up to the North is probably my favorite, just because of that extra ball style. So
that's I'm glad you brought that up. I completely forgot to ask. What are your thoughts on pinch? Obviously, it sounds like you enjoy it.
Oh, I love pinch, man. Pinch, in my opinion, is probably one of the more fun games, in my opinion. which you see a lot of times. A lot of people struggle to hit things in pinch, but you play against a team that knows what they're doing with these balls, like like the Task Forces and Krakens and Grand Rapids Dynasty. Those guys, they're throwing with intent and they're hitting more than they're missing.
They're aiming.
Again, you want to get better, you got to play the best. So
that's awesome. That's a really good attitude. Here's a weird question. Did the Army influence your attitude towards competition at all, or were you always competitive?
I've always been competitive, man. Back from when I was a kid, trying to beat my brother in Sega Genesis to playing dodgeball now, man. It's always been the same type of fire and intensity.
Nice.
I don't like to lose, and I don't take it very well. But I do look at it as an opportunity to reflect and change my game up a little bit every time it happens. So
it's funny, you just triggered a memory. I remember playing beer pong against you. Once I finally understood what I was doing, and even then you were always like competitive and not wanting to lose, and sometimes you wouldn't. You would just like fight to the death, and I'd just be like, dude, let it go. Like did you ever just like turn it off? It's funny.
I've gotten better at turning it off, I think, in the right situations.
Right.
I think that just comes with getting old, but
just learning to let go sometimes and have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. So Vince asked, and I'm not really sure what he means by this question, what team would you never play with and why? And I'm wondering if that's like not a diss on any particular team, but if there's like a team where you're just like, no thanks, or because it seems like you just would go anywhere for a tournament. You'll travel anywhere. You'll hop on a team with anybody. So I'm not really sure how to ask that question other than just how he wrote it. Any thoughts on that one?
To be honest, there's really not a team that I wouldn't play with. I mean, as long as you have a spot open and you can promise me a good time, I'll be down to fly out and play. If we had to say something about the West region, probably the teams I wouldn't play on would be teams that I've played with several people on those squads with, like
right.
Riot, I've played with Mark, and I've played with Brett and Alex, and haven't played with Cliff yet, but that probably would be a team that I wouldn't play on just because I've played with them before. I like to play with new people and change it up, which is also why I travel so much. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what we're really looking for that question, but
yeah, I mean, maybe that's what it is. Just that because of your interest in going places and playing with teams, you don't really seem to have like well, I'll never play with that team because they're bad people or whatnot. So pretty good answer for that one. And I think those are all the questions I got or I'd received from people. Thank you to everybody that actually caught that in their thread and asked questions. It's always fun, new thing to throw in here. I bet I can actually think of a team that you would not play for. And it kind of goes back to the good old NDL days. Did you ever have an interest in the NDL pro tryouts or pro teams?
Yeah. When I got back and we went back to WDC with Arsenal that year, I did try out. At the time, like I said, that was probably the biggest tournament that was around, before Elite started doing their national tournaments and whatnot. So I did try out. I got put on San Diego with Justin, Billy, Casey, Colin, and Lil J. But mainly the motive behind that was I didn't want to pay like $350 to play 7 divisions in a tournament,
Yeah.
You become one of their quote unquote pros and your price is cut in half. So I looked at it as a way to save money if going to the next one, but then we actually never went back after that. So
Gotcha. Yeah, it was it was free when I was there. So that was a perk. And from 2005 to 7, it did seem like it had a lot of promise, and so there was that. There was more to it than just playing for free. But yeah, that was a heck of a perk. I mean, like you said, if you're paying upwards to like $350 per player, not per team, per player, to play in this tournament. Yeah, you want me to pro? Sure, man, sign me up. I'll do whatever. I don't care. Like, let me play for free. You can promise you the world. Just let me get in. Well, cool, man. Well, it sounds like you have a lot to look forward to in 2018. So that would be my next question. But I guess I'll ask it anyway. Aside from what we already talked about with these tournaments coming up with the North and in Dallas, anything else that you're just specifically looking forward to for this year?
Just looking at round one on the West region, we had so many more teams than we normally do. And I think that number is going to increase when we get up to Portland for round two. Um, I'm really excited to see how much the West region has been taken off. We're just so lucky to have the amount of talent that we do on this coast. Um, so if we can continue to grow this region, maybe open up a couple others, it should be a really good year for elite dodgeball as a whole. I saw that the women's teams are starting to get bigger down in the South and in the East regions. And honestly, I just hope that they get to grow as much as we do. The women's division has so many incredible players that are there, and it would be great to have a lot more teams coming out to that and challenging these teams from the West.
Nice. Yeah, it's talking to Marie and kind of getting an understanding of what she did for the recap and how she was very instrumental in bringing a women's division to the South was awesome. It's great to see people are willing to put the time in and the work to build something. And it just makes you wonder what's it going to be like next year and the year after that. And it's all got to start from somewhere. I mean, to think that Elite started with 8 teams, and now look at it. It's just huge. It spans across regions. You got national. I mean, it's incredible how something so large can start with something so small. And so hopefully, women's division will continue to grow and expand in the South. But it's a pretty optimistic look, man. And I think you can appreciate this as much as I can. It's quite a difference from what we look forward to in 2008, right? We're like, yeah, I guess we're going to go to Vegas in 2009. Cool. There'll be a couple Grand Canyon State Games tournaments that we'll see each other at, but it's pretty much going to be the height of dodgeball for us. So it's definitely something I'm very grateful for. And I say that all the time in these podcasts, but I mean it. And I mean it from coming from, 2005 and beyond. So exactly what I'm talking about there.
Oh yeah, that's always been the biggest problem, especially back then with NDL trying to get a hold on things. It's like, listen, you guys don't do enough stuff on the West Coast for us to gain interest to want to do more for you. So, Mark and Glenn and Vince and those guys have done a tremendous job of building the Elite brand, and it's in every city just about now. Miles and miles away from where the NDL was trying to get us headed back then. So great job to those guys, and anything we can do to help, we should be more than willing to do it. For sure.
And that's the thing is like it's matched. If you're willing to help, there's a place for you. There's something you can do. It's not to turn this into an NDL bashing minute or two, but it's received. The Mark and Co are very receptive to how you can help, and that's why it's been so successful. It's not just because somebody's controlling every little minute thing. It's definitely community oriented, and it's just amazing. It gets better every month. The only other question I have for you, and this may come as a curveball, but who?
Eric Jones.
Where did that come from? Is that just?
Oh man, this is again back in the NDL days. We started playing. It was when Mike Jones, I think, was starting to get hot back then. And Anthony Elizondo, every chance he got, would just walk by and just go, "Who?" And I would respond with Eric Jones, probably as loud as I could, and it just kind of continued to carry on over the years. It went from just Elizondo to you guys in Tucson and Phoenix, and it's hilarious. I laugh every time.
It's awesome. When I saw you after you came back from your military stint, I asked that and was like, I wonder if he's going to respond the way he's supposed to. Like, how much has the Army changed him? And then as soon as you had that like smile, like Eric Jones, like I can't even like mimic what you do. But I was like, we didn't lose him. He's the same. Thank God. Yeah, it makes me happy every time I do it. Awesome. Cool, man. Well, that's all I can think of. So I think we'll just go ahead and end the interview there. So that was Eric Jones from Arsenal, but also from the good old days. I really enjoyed spending time catching up and talking dodgeball with an old friend, and hope that you enjoyed it as well. I did have to edit out a lot of personal conversations that we had just because I wanted to stay somewhat on topic, but it was a great time. And as I said with the conclusion of my episode with Tim Fullerton, dodgeball has provided a type of consistency for me that I never would have expected, and it makes us all that much more appreciative that it's just come to our lives. To go from acquaintances to rivals to roommates to friends to even brothers in arms, dodgeball has really just been a common thread amongst us, me and Eric. And I'm pretty sure I don't speak alone when I say that Eric is one of those people that really just makes your life that much more enjoyable. So huge shout out to this guy. Before I get too much further into this bromance, I do want to say a heartfelt thank you to those that submitted their questions last minute, and for those that are tuning in week after week, interview after recap after interview. You know what I'm going to say at this point, but I'll say it anyway. Your feedback, suggestions, and comments are always welcome. I do want to say good luck to all those that will be participating in the Dodge War 4 in Dallas, as well as the Elite North Region Round 1 tournament. I will definitely be watching for recap purposes. Till then, have a great weekend, and I'll see you all next time. All right, for reals this time. In 3, 2, 1. I f***ing forgot to breathe again. Why?